Figuring it's about that big, has its finger up on the ground.
I'm sure there is still one.
I know what I mean. Well, usually.
I'm not planning to lead the way. I'm letting Nick lead the way.
Okay, all
Parade.
right.
Nick's interested, he's gonna have a little, Nick with the Chamber of Commerce. He's signed up.
I'm as interested
Council member.
as walking through the 4th of July parade. I'll be partying with our people, so I ain't walking to that one either.
That's what I thought.
So I mean,
I'll be on. I have a show that weekend, so
I
I'll be out
have
of town.
right before he passed away, I have.
That's still on your time. Christmas party, that's
I thought I
I'm
could
gonna
leave it to
get
you.
every last minute of it.
Good evening and welcome to the Creswell City Council Special Meeting, December 3, 2024. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have the privilege of interviewing two candidates for our interim city manager position. The first candidate will be David Klein, who's already there with us. Hello, David.
Hi there.
Each interview will last 45 minutes, and then our second candidate will be Spencer Neville. So just to give you a little overview, Council, here's Alonzo and I talked about how to proceed tonight. We have a list of questions that was given to us by our city manager, also some topics to avoid. But if you have your own question, you may ask that tonight instead. What we're going to do is we're going to go around and each counselor ask one question of David, and then we're going to open it up for David if he has questions he would have for us. Then we'll wrap back around, and perhaps in our original round of questions or conversation with David, you have another follow-up question you'd like to ask. Then we'll do that, but we do have a 45-minute time limit. Then we will break after 45 minutes. Then we will have Spencer come on, and we will do the same thing with Spencer. We want to have consistent questions, so whatever question you ask of David is the same one you'll ask of Spencer in the first go-around. In the second go-around, once we've had the exchange, if you thought of a question that might be, particular for Spencer, you can ask a different question in the second go-around, but not the first go-around. Then after we've interviewed Spencer, then we will have a brief break, and then council, we will deliberate and make a decision tonight and select an interim. Okay, sound good? All right, so who would like to go first? First of all, welcome David, and thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Well, it's my pleasure, Mayor, members of council. Can you hear me okay there?
Yes.
Yes.
Counselor, be sure you have your microphone on and turn towards you. So, Counselor, who would like to go first with a question? Let's have Nick first, Counselor Smith, and then Counselor Osborne.
What is motivating you to be an interim city manager?
Great question, thank you. So I've been retired now, so I'm going to give you a teeny bit of my history. I've been in the business for well over 40 years. I've worked during my active career, I've worked 8 different cities. Are you getting this feedback or is it just me? You're okay with what you're hearing?
Yep.
Okay. So I've been, my active career took me over 2 states and actually 3 states, but 2 states as in the city management profession, Colorado and here, 22 years in Colorado, 22, and I've lived here 22 years as well. And I had 8 cities that I worked in my active career in the 2 states, and then since then I retired in December of 2018 from the city of Independence where I live, and I'm not a very good retiree. And so I've proceeded to do a few things to stay active, not the least of which is to do some interim city management jobs. I've also spent a couple times, worked for Portland State University for them a little bit, and I've worked for Western Oregon University. And I've done a fair amount of volunteer work, the local food bank and other things. And I'm really working to try and learn my Spanish to stay active as well. I travel to Spanish-speaking countries, so I've done some immersion doing that as well. But interim city management, the question you asked me in the first place. I've taken a year away from the work. I traveled a couple of times this past year. And I find that we bought a new house. So I have a selfish and a less selfish reason. One, I really enjoy the work and miss the work. I enjoy public service tremendously. It gets in your blood. You do it, and you do it for as long as I've done it. It's hard to just to give it up and say you're done. So I've never been done. The second thing is, having traveled a couple times and bought a new house, it wouldn't hurt to replenish the coffers just a little bit. Just get a little bit of extra pay to offset all the money we spend. But that truly is not the primary reason. It's just the primary reason is I enjoy the work. I enjoy the valley. I think I know the communities in your region very well, having worked in Cottage Grove, Junction City, a little bit north of Brownsville. This is the part of the valley I know, and this is the kind of work that I love doing.
Thank you. Hi,
Thank you.
I'm
Norma
Norma Jean. I'm Norma Jean. What do you like best about working as a city manager?
I'm sorry, I did not hear your question.
What do you like best about being a city manager?
I think the thing that is most enjoyable about being a city manager is the variety of work. Like I said, I've worked in 13 different cities. I've never once been bored. And I never once concluded that I knew it all, even though I thought for many times that I did. Every opportunity brought a fresh set of problems, fresh set of opportunities, fresh opportunity to help a city move forward from where I was when I started. I think any job that I do, my first and primary motivation is that I leave it a better place than I found it. So that's a little easier to do when you're doing it as a regular city manager than as an interim, because your stay is a little shorter. But nonetheless, that is always my goal. I love the variety of work. I mean, you just cannot, there's no way to be bored being a city manager. As counselors, the vast array of things that we bring to you for your consideration. The difference being is you have 2 days a month to think about it, and we have 30 days, 28 or 31, depending on the month. So we get to stock up on the information a little more than you do, but at the end of the day, it's such a variety, and it's just sort of an unquenchable thirst for that. And then the other piece of this, I think, is you grow up in as I did here, and I think the greatest laboratories of democracy happen to be our city governments, our local governments. I'm far less a believer of democracy in practice at a higher level, but I absolutely witness it. You witness it on a daily level, and it's great to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Okay, who would like to go next, councilors? Councilor Kent?
What is your management style?
I'm sorry, I missed that question as well.
Sure. What is your management style?
My annual salary?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Your management style.
Oh, my management style. Okay, so I think you'll hear a lot about management styles, we have some debate internally over that. I am a manager that's collaborative and empowering. So what does that mean to me? That doesn't mean that I turn over the keys to the car to my teenager and say, have at it. It means that I provide the level of guidance that is needed, but not overwhelming as far as my department heads. I view that with respect to my department heads as their manager, that they probably do their job better than I do. If they don't, they're probably not well suited to the position. So I don't pretend to come in and know how to be a better finance director. I don't pretend to come in and be a better public works director. I don't pretend to be an IT director. But I know enough about all that work to provide leadership and guidance. So that is my role, is to understand and to provide that leadership and guidance. And most importantly, it's to understand that leadership and guidance that's needed to make your city a better place, to meet your needs as a city council. The other piece of being an empowering and collaborative manager is that's a up and down or side to side effort. So if the city council, you are a member of my team, I'm a member of your team, and my job is to collaborate with you, to weigh in with you, to help you make the choices that you want to make, you need to make, but well informed, fully informed. Ultimately, those are your choices, and it's my job to put that into operation. I only tell you what the pitfalls are. I only tell you, where your greatest opportunities lie. But at the end of the day, my job is to give you enough information and enough choices to make a good reasoned decision, whatever direction that takes. And so it's my job with my team, my staff team, to take that and put that into day-to-day operation.
Okay, Councillor Holt.
Hi there, thank you for joining us tonight. My question is, what specific strategies would you implement to ensure continuity and stability during the transition period?
So again, I'm having sound problems here, but if you could do that right into your mic, I would really, rather than.
Absolutely, does that help? Okay, what specific strategies would you implement to ensure continuity and stability during the transition period?
Okay, so that is ultimately the job of the interim city manager. So I step in, and I usually step in on short notice, because typically when a manager is leaving with a lot of understanding of what, where their future lies, they will give plenty of notice, and you will start your succession planning early with the idea that you would hope to have a manager on board before your existing city manager leaves. So that's not typically how interims step into the role. We step in when a manager, for whatever reason, has to give short notice, there's an opportunity that comes their way, there's a feeling that there's not a fit going forward, or they've been asked to make their departure a little earlier than they had planned. All those things happen in the management world. We work in a sort of a risky environment. That's part of why we get paid as well as we do. So my job is to come in and, I quickly try to understand what is going on in your community. I've already had one at-length conversation with your outgoing manager. I will meet with your management team. I've met with your mayor for a little bit on the phone. We've talked a bit. I would want to schedule meetings with each and every one of you as early as possible, to the extent that you're interested in doing so, and to get a better sense of what you find important, how you see how we can best work together as a team during my relatively short stay with you, and begin with you what I believe is probably your highest priority, other than any emergencies that face you, which is selection of a successor candidate. One of the conversations we would have is a conversation of how do you want to do that? Do you want to try and do that in-house? Difficult at best, but certainly doable, with me helping you lead the way to do that. Or would you want to try and find a professional assistance, which I don't know, I think, budgetarily, I think you have a fairly healthy budget, having reviewed it. It may be your better choice, but that's a conversation we would have collectively and individually, so so we could talk about some of the pluses and minuses of that approach. So my job is really, it's more than just keeping the lights on, but it's not necessarily designing your vision plan. It's taking what you have on the books in your current budget, and I noticed that as given the time of year, it's also helping you put together your next round of budget. You have a very strong finance director with Jim Piper. So I know he's the budget director, and again, your budget looks fine. He does great work from everything I see. So I don't know that how much of a day-to-day effort that will be on my part, but it's to make sure that those ongoing tasks, as I understand them, looking both from our conversations, looking at your agendas, meeting with my staff, my management team, and identifying and pursuing those, and providing them whatever aid and comfort I can in achieving the mission. I think that's largely the role of city manager, the interim city manager. And then my ultimately the goal is to help you get me out of there early and move on to your regular manager that you will come to know both, I hope.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, we have Alonzo or Shelley. Who'd like to do next? Shelley?
Hello, thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Shelley Clark, and I serve as a counselor for the next couple of weeks. And so one of my questions that I have for you is that this is, even interim city, like interim, right, is an incredibly important role for our communities. And so what would your communities say about what you have accomplished as interim city managers?
That's a great question. So normally, you would go into a city, and so I'll tell you the cities that I've worked in as interim city manager are Falls City, that's the smallest one, that's about 1,000 people. The largest one I worked in was the fourth largest in the state, which is Gresham. The other two were Newburgh and Cottage Grove. So I can say that probably Falls City was the most stable, and that was in the midst of COVID. They were all three of the others were challenging communities, and if you would, depending on who you talk to, I think if you talk to the mayor, then sitting mayor, he would have nothing but kind words for my term of office there. I will tell you that Newburgh was probably the roughest city I worked in. I was named in litigation by at least two parties, 3 or 4 lawsuits, and all of which have since settled or dismissed. And they were started before I arrived, and I was a convenient new defendant in the case. So it was a rough city. You go to, I used to joke that you go to staff meeting and bring your attorney along. It was a little bit of that type of city. But I think largely, I think people that knew me there, that I worked with and worked for, would come away with saying that I think that I did a pretty darn good job for them. Again, it always varies with who you're talking to, particularly community and tumult like they were. Gresham, I think, Gresham was interesting. I came there thinking that I'd only be there for a month or so because they were in the final month or so of their city manager selection process. But the prior interim had to terminate, not to terminate services, but lapse the services because their charter had a 6-month maximum on how long a city interim could serve, and they were going into their 7th month at that point. The search ultimately failed. The council was pretty split on the candidates, and so they didn't hire the lead candidate. So I ended up staying there the full 6 months again for the city of Gresham. So in that time, I was fairly responsible for a significant overhaul of how they did business. And so I think, again, depending on who you talk to, amongst the staff, I think I would generally get higher marks. I think the council was equally as split on me as they were on all the other matters that were before them. So I think the current mayor, I believe, still current mayor, I don't know that I was ever his first pick. I don't know that he would still view him as the best thing that ever happened to Gresham. But I think other members of council found that they were. I think it was a fairly positive. It was a positive relationship in that what really helped them get to understand the council manager form of government. We went through a lot of training and a lot of change management there, so that's always a little challenging. And then finally, Cottage Grove, it's hard to say. I mean, they just went through a recall, and so whoever's on council didn't much care for the work that was being done at council prior. I think if you talk to the councilors I served, I think largely, again, I think I would get positive marks from the council. I think I would get positive marks from the staff. The police chief was new, and I think we formed a good relationship. I think Faye and I had a really good working relationship together. I have a lot of respect for Faye. The issue of homelessness in that community really was very divisive, and ultimately ended up changing the complexion of council. And so those that were, I just took my directions from council wherever it was the operational plan at this point, so that's what we executed on. But that was really not what the community ultimately wanted and the new council wanted. So, again, it's probably a mixed bag from those that are sitting there now. I think Falls I think Lars is positive. The then mayor is now county commissioner in my county here, Polk County, and I think he would give you, I think I would get glowing remarks from him as well.
Councilor Castilla.
Okay, thank you, David, for being here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. If you get a little closer to your mic, that'd be great.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, David, my question to you is, can you describe a situation where you had to make a significant decision with limited information during an interim role, and how you approached the decision-making process?
Well, just to catch all that question again, I apologize, but it's not coming through clearly to me.
Okay, let's try it again. Can you describe a situation where you had to make a significant decision with limited information during an interim role?
Just froze. I'm sorry, you're freezing up on me. One more time, I apologize.
Can you describe a situation where you had to make a significant decision with limited information during an interim role, and how you approached the decision-making process?
So if I understood you correctly, it was where I had to make a important decision with limited information as an interim.
Yes, sir.
Is that, I'm saying, thank you. And I apologize for
No worries, it's technology.
quality or what it is, but I apologize for that. Decision in my limited information. Well, so many decisions, so many cities. So, probably one of the, I'll give you one. This was a very difficult one. We were doing this takes me back to Newburgh. And the subject matter of one of several investigations that were ongoing was actions by our police department, who, by the way, will probably not give me high marks. The police, there was an investigation going on having to do with the lawful or unlawful, reputed lawful or unlawful behavior involving the assistant chief primarily. The role of the chief was not really questioned at that time, and one of his officers. And at any rate, long and the short of that, the city was taking city council was taking a pretty bad beating from the public about what was going on, and the city council was doing what it needed to do, which was staying very quiet about what it knew. When the investigation was completed, we did have the legal right, and it was explained to council that you can continue to get beat up, even though you know that what is being reported is really not. It's certainly not the full story, and from our perspective, not true. Or you can, in fact, take advantage of an opportunity in law that says you may publish the results of the investigation. It was a tough decision on their part because it really meant putting our dirty laundry out there where everybody could see it. But for all intents and purposes, only one side of the story was getting told. And so it was my advice, as well as the attorneys were sort of 50-50 on it, but it was my advice to council to really consider that option, and I would support their making that choice. And they did so. And I think it went a long ways in the end. I think it was the right choice. It went a long ways in the end towards quelling a lot of divided conversations in the community, because now people understood that there was more to a story that they were hearing than just the one side of the story. And it's always difficult, and it's particularly difficult when you're coming with your law enforcement or your fire departments, because they truly are deserving and have held a high regard in communities. And so to think that anything that's getting done in those arenas is tainted is always a challenging place to go. But it was important that the people understand what was going on in that environment. So that was a difficult moment, but I think that's one that comes to mind right now.
All right. Thank you, David.
Okay, I'll give the last one, David. Knowing what you know about Creswell, why do you believe that you would be the right person for the interim position?
I think Spence is a great hire if you hire him, so I think either, to be honest with you, we both be the right people for your situation. I think we both come to you with a great deal of experience and the ability to see you through your, certainly 4 to 6 months, during your recruitment period and keep the ship right. I don't, there's nothing I can say really to say why I am better than Spence, other than just to say that I can do the job for you. I've done this kind of work over and over again. I'm a quick study. I understand. I work well with councils. I am apolitical. I am not involved in the the politics of the council. And thankfully, you're not at an election point anyway. I do know you have a new council coming on with a couple of new members. I'm very, I've got a lot of experience in helping people come up to speed in their roles as city councilors. You'll have a new mayor with Councilor Smith. I think I look forward to getting to know him if I'm selected, getting to know what his priorities and his style of leadership will be and how I can provide assistance to him in helping the council get their work done. So, I can't say that I'm better than Spencer. Spencer is just an A+ human being and totally well respected in our state by other professional managers and Michigan for that matter. But I think, certainly if you pick me, I think you'll find somebody to do the work for you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so now we're going to turn it over to you, David. Do you have questions for us as a council?
Honestly, not as a council at this point in time. I have a sense of of what you're looking at. Again, you are changing. You are changing. Let me ask you one question, and this one may be not helpful to my cause, but I guess I'll ask the thinking here. You have the sitting council here. I don't know if you have the two new councilors in the audience, or if somehow they're going to get read into this decision making at some point in time. I guess if I had been there to advise you, I would have advised you to do so. So I don't know maybe get a little feedback on that, perhaps.
So we have 2 new councilors coming on. I believe Mark is here. The other new councilor is not here. And then we will have a 3rd councilor who will need to be appointed because Councilor Smith's position will be vacated. So that will happen sometime in January. But in terms of the decision tonight, when we have concluded your interview and Spencer's, then we'll give the audience an opportunity to make a comment if they'd like to us. So Mark, if you have a thought you'd like to share with us about both applicants, then we'd like to hear that as well. And then when it comes to selecting a new city manager, that will be up to the new council, of course, to make that decision.
Then you've answered my question exactly as I hoped you would have. Thank you for that. Other than that, I think I have a strong sense of where you're going. Oh, I'm sorry, are you looking to your city manager for something?
No, our city manager is not with us tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were looking at something. Everybody's looking at me, but your eyes are facing like 90 degrees away from me.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sometimes going Zoom sort of is a little. So I was a little concerned when you got up to do the pledge at the beginning of the meeting because I had to look down and see what I was wearing as for pants. But no, I'm great. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I look forward to hearing the direction you go.
All right. So I want to see councilors. Were there any follow-up questions any councilors would like to ask? Norma Jean.
Hi, I'm Norma Jean Osborne. I'm leaving this month too. I'm one of the people leaving. Maybe coming back, but leaving. Anyway, how do you plan to quickly gain an understanding of the city's current priorities, challenges, and key stakeholders during your interim period?
I so missed that question
Okay,
again.
I'll try again. I know it's difficult at best. Is this it better if I do this?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I wonder if the mayor could repeat your question. Somehow his sound comes through really well today.
Go ahead.
Number 5, I believe.
Okay.
Number 5, right?
Yeah, this
Here.
right here.
All right, I will repeat Norma Jean's question. David, how do you plan to quickly gain an understanding of the city's current priorities, challenges, and key stakeholders during your interim period?
How do I plan to do what? To understand those priorities, understand the priorities of the city?
To quickly gain an understanding of the city's priorities, challenges, and key stakeholders.
Got it. That answers your question. So I started, I think I answered that a little bit earlier. And maybe this is an opportunity to make sure you're clear on what I'm proposing, but so I would create opportunity. First and foremost, I think it's important to meet with the management team and with the city council, both collectively and individually, as early as possible with all of you to get to know you. I will be meeting, if I get the position, I will find some time to overlap with your city manager, at least for several hours, to identify her understanding, and she's been there 11 years, so I'm sure she has a lot of understanding of who the key stakeholders in the community are. And I would try to set up appointments to visit with folks as well. There's one significant difference between an interim city manager and a regular city manager, and I think largely it's more of an inward focus for an interim city manager than it is for a regular city manager. In the role of regular city manager, I think it's hugely important to sort of find the balance of your time between what is important for the community as a whole in terms of legislative contacts, bureaucratic contacts with state and federal employees, county people, doing the networking that you need to do to maximize the city's opportunities, financial opportunities, regulatory opportunities, and the like. So if you have a legislative agenda, somebody needs to be touching base. I know Val Hoyle pretty well, so Representative Hoyle would be somebody that I would be reaching out to if I were a regular city manager. As an interim, I'm not sure that's all that would be necessary because there'll be limited opportunity to engage. On the flip side, I would spend a good deal of time with my staff, my management team, trying to quickly get up to speed with them, whether it be regular staff meetings or individual one-on-ones. I typically try to schedule, depending on what department it is, regular meeting either weekly or monthly with my staff. To understand their priorities, their concerns, and to be available to them as a resource. I think that goes. Does that capture what you're looking for, Counselor, on that question?
Yes.
I do want to be clear. I do want to be clear, and I'm sure you saw my proposal that I am looking to perhaps save you a little bit of money because I've proposed to you something between a 4-day work week. That doesn't mean I'm not available 5 days plus, but that would mean that I would be billing you directly for those 3 to 4 days in the office, and then any additional time would be just hourly as it occurs. So I think that was my rate structure, which is less than fully loaded compensation for a city manager, should net the city a little bit of savings during my interim period. So that might go back to the last question you answered me before that extra question, why me instead of Spencer? Because I know he's looking at this as full-time employment, and the city manager is full-time. That again goes to my philosophy that this is an inward-looking position more so than an outward-looking position. Sure, I need to meet with the community stakeholders, the business leaders, the chamber leaders, the folks that that have a place, people that just have a pointed interest in what the city is doing, but it isn't quite like I need to nurture a relationship with the school superintendent the way I would as a regular city manager or county officials to a great degree. So less need to engage in that network at that level, which is fairly time consuming, and just stay focused inwardly. So I think, I've done this in my other cities. I have worked less than a full load and furnished the services to get cities through to that higher that they need to make.
Any other questions from the councilors? Nick?
How do you handle conflict with strong differences of opinions from council and/or citizens? Are there any specific tools or when you run into situations that are maybe not heated, but aggressive and convicted?
So, again, I struggle to hear, but I think I heard that if I worked in an environment where a counselor or a mayor or the community may have a strong difference of opinion with what is being recommended by staff.
Correct.
Yeah, have I not worked in that kind of environment would probably be the more appropriate question. Our cities, if you're in any city for any length of time, it's going to, not everybody's going to love you. Public service is not always the most highly regarded form of endeavor there is. So, I don't mean to be flip. That's not the point of my response, but that's why why I refer to these as laboratories of democracy, because we truly do hear from everybody. We truly hear everybody's opinions, and you need to honor, and I need to honor that. You don't need to do anything. You're elected. You're not paid. You're probably paid nominally, but I'm your paid staff. So my job is to hear and listen to everybody, and it's more than a job; it's my passion. I mean, because I'm a strong believer that not one of us, myself included, have all the answers, and that there are not many reasons to be hearing out what other people have to say, and what is the perspective they have, what can I learn from that, what can they learn from me, but how do we get to my goal would be to get to a place at the end of the conversation where there's we at least respectfully agree or respectfully disagree, but respect would be central to that conversation, that end of the conversation. I would hope it's not always the case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, other questions?
Do we have time?
Yes, we do. We probably have 7-8 more minutes.
How about number 5, I think that's a really good question, since he can hear you better.
Okay. This question, it's kind of a long question, but I'll get right to the heart of it, okay? Creswell is an involved community with many groups and individuals who want to be part of a decision-making process. As you guide the council in the recruitment process for a new city manager, how do you see yourself working in this environment? And what do you think the city should do to be inclusive in its decision-making?
Okay, so I think I understood you to ask me what would be my role in helping you make a selection of a city manager, or what would I recommend you?
Yes.
In that regard, and a pay package, is that what I understood you to ask me about?
No, so I'm going to kind of rephrase this and see if I'm getting, if the city council were to decide that they didn't want to hire a professional search firm, but rather work directly with you to do the recruitment process, are you comfortable doing that, and how would you see yourself doing that if the city decided to work directly with you to conduct the search process?
Sure. I'm comfortable doing that. You would probably need to understand that, of course, that would be a diversion from a little bit of a diversion from other duties. It's not that I can't, walk and chew gum at the same time, but recruitment is a significant process. I would tell you that one of the most important decisions you're going to make as a city council going forward, or your next city council is going to make, is who their ultimate city manager is. And so, as you can tell, I'm probably leading you towards saying, boy, maybe a recruiting firm makes more sense, but should you still, insist after, should you still believe that after that, that introductory conversation that we may have at some point in time, that you still would want me to do the work on your behalf? I've done that kind of work before. Part of my role at Cottage Grove was working I worked under Prothman. I was assigned, Prothman's a search firm. I was assigned to the city as their contract city manager as an interim. That was my professional role. My loyalties were to the city, but my paycheck was from Prothman. So I helped them significantly in the recruiting process, though again, my role was to advise the council, not necessarily to advise Kaufman, but I helped them significantly in the recruitment process, and so I understood their work, I understand my work, and I've been involved in executive searches over the course of 40 plus years, over and over again. I think there's certain features of an executive search that, one way or another, you're gonna need a little help. One is, that is putting together the pay package. I can do my best to, I think, I would either ask somebody on staff, but I'd rather not, or I would look to whatever resources are out there to at least give me what competitive wage packages, total compensation for city managers. So you could be advised, because you're gonna want to, maximize your budget in terms of how you're not going to want to underpay, you're not going to overpay. You're going to want to try and find a sweet spot for the community. But what it takes to bring in somebody and keep somebody for as long as you would have that person. The networking, there's not a lot of tools you need to do anymore in terms of networking. That's pretty straight up. There's so many different ways to reach out, and I don't think you need a search firm necessarily to do that. I would be looking, if I were defining a search for you for a city manager, it would be Pacific Northwest, maybe a little bit of the less populated areas of California, perhaps not, and maybe some of the other western states. And there's easy publications to reach out to people. You don't need to spend any real money on that. As far as putting together questions and the like, that again is too terribly hard. There's lots and lots of examples. Setting a time frame, again, I've sat through that so many times. I can easily help you get, put together a reasonable time frame for improvement. Probably doing, with help with the background search, you'd want to probably pay somebody to do a decent background search. It's somebody that could not only do a criminal record search, but do reach some of the people that aren't just listed as references, but some of the more difficult to reach people. I mean, Google's great, but it doesn't get you. So that I think would be important as far as out of pocket. Setting up the overall day-to-day, setting up the interview panels, setting up the facilities, setting up the venues where they're going to go, planning for, typically a city manager search is a 2 or 3 day. It involves the community, involves the council, involves your staff. I want to get a lot of input for the council ultimately makes it, the decision that's going to be in front of it. All those things I can help with, think directly on. Some of that will be out of pocket regardless. But yeah, it can be done by way of the city manager, not necessarily with a search, not necessarily with a search being a configured search consultant.
Okay, thank you. So we got about 3 minutes left, and Councilor Holt has a question.
Hi, thank you. Oops. Maybe. Can you hear me okay?
A little bit scratchy, that's what's going on with the sound.
Okay, I'll try to go slowly. One of the things that I've appreciated a lot about our outgoing city manager is that she has been very helpful in aiding us and guiding us through our public meetings and making sure that we're doing things properly, etc. And so I just wanted to know if how versed you are with Robert's rules and public meeting law.
Okay, so again, I apologize yet again, but something with respect to the outgoing city manager, you were getting a lot of help with respect to, and then I sort of lost you.
Can you help me?
Yes, with respect to public meetings, so the question was, how versed are you with Robert's Rules of Order and with public meetings laws we're going to be having new councilors in January, 3, so that's a role that our former city manager played very well, assisting the council in public meetings, making sure we were in compliance with public meetings laws. So I think that was the heart of the question.
Yes.
Okay. So the first part I got clearly, so if I stumble over the second part, please redirect me to where you want me to go, but okay. So, as you probably saw from my resume, I was an attorney in Colorado, so I certainly have a legal background. That said, I would not be your attorney. One, I'm not licensed in Oregon. Two, I know very well, where to draw a line. A short story, I worked for one city where the city attorney was acting as city manager. He had his MPA and his law degree, of course. I came in there, I had my MPA and my law degree. And we had a quick conversation after one or two meetings and said, look, if you don't practice city management, or if you don't practice city management, I won't practice city law. And we got along famously and did a great job together after that. So I respect that boundary. I don't try to practice law before you. That said, I can keep you and your city, I can keep certainly new counselors, help them get trained up. And I can certainly keep you on track with, your motion order if you wish. I'm not a big fan of Robert's rules. It's a little bit overly complex. I'm not sure anybody really understands it. If you have a set of council rules, you probably have all you need to know in that set of council rules. And so that's where I would really turn to as for my guidance, to understand your rules and to provide you guidance how to manage your meetings effectively. All these rules are about is how to manage a meeting effectively and allowing people to participate in an orderly manner. I mean, everybody should, the role of the leader of the mayor is to, bring the meeting to order, give everybody an opportunity to speak their mind, stay on topic, don't allow disruption to the extent possible, bring it to an orderly conclusion, look for the motions you need, and, help them get to the motion they need to make if there's, as the mayor, and then see if you have the votes, count it properly, or if there's a motion to table, those kinds of things. Did I miss part of the question?
No, I think you did just fine. So we go by, I don't know if you can see this book, we use, actually it's called Mastering Council Meetings by Ann G. McFarland, and we do have our own council governing rules as well. So we don't actually follow Roberts, but we follow this, and Roberts is taken off from this in some ways. So I think that wraps up our time. So David, we're gonna stop now. We're gonna switch to Spencer, and then after that we will deliberate. So if you want to come back on YouTube when we're done with Spencer, you'd be more than welcome to. We will deliberate, and then we will make a decision tonight, and then I will reach out to both you and Spencer tomorrow with our decision. How's that sound?
Do you want me to actually come back on while you deliberate? It seems like you'd like to do that without the candidates present.
I don't think you need to come back on for our deliberation. No, I don't think you need to.
Okay, so you don't. So I will just wait till I hear from you. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, I will reach out to you and Spencer both tomorrow morning with our decision.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for all your time. I really enjoyed it. I apologize for my struggling with the sound. And I wish you all the best. You've got a great city.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. All right, good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Vic.
Okay, council members, does anybody need to take a break in your restroom, or are we good? Okay, so we want to pick up our materials for Spencer. And remember, the first 7 questions need to be the same that you asked previously. And then when we have our open time for questions after Spencer has addressed us, then if you have a different question, you can change to that question.
Start in the same order?
Yes, yeah, we'll just do
I'm not taking over now.
the same questions. If we go in a
So
different
I want
order.
the same order.
Oh, okay, I get it.
I'll ask first.
It's just be
Okay.
easier to go with the same
Yeah.
order.
Then I hope you remember the order, because I don't.
Oh, Caitlin too.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Then it was Stacy, right? And then Shelley, and then the mayor.
Glad you all can remember that.
Just remember the Christmas parade.
All right, council, we are ready now with Spencer. Neville, is that correct?
Well, actually, it's Nebel.
Nebel. Spencer Nebel.
But I've been called many other things in the past, so it's, Neville, Nebel, Nabel, any of those work, so.
I will try to get it right, Spencer. Thank you. So this is can you see all of us?
Yes.
Okay, so with David, we had some audio problems. If you cannot understand a question, let us know and we will either restate it or I'll state it again. So what we're going to do is each counselor will ask you a question, and they're the same questions that we asked of David. And then when the council members have concluded with their questions, then we'd like to let you ask a question or questions of us. And then we will have an open time of questions if there's any follow-up questions the council has or any follow-up questions you have. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Okay, so first counselor is Counselor Smith, our mayor-elect.
Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us, and hopefully you can hear me okay. So what is your motivation to be an interim city manager?
Well, from the time, probably the last 20 years, I've always thought that once I retire, being an interim city manager would be something I would really enjoy doing. I enjoy the profession. I enjoyed 42 years of being in city management, but I think I've seen a lot of situations in which I think as an interim manager can really help the community through that process and also really prepare the council and the staff and to be ready for a new manager coming into that position. I think I enjoy working with people. I enjoy working with the elected officials and staff, and it's really a great opportunity to get to know folks that I haven't had a chance to work with before. And the nice thing about it is it's a limited duration. So once that wraps up, hopefully you'll be on to other opportunities for interim work. But this will be my first job as interim manager. I just retired on July 8th, so I took a little break and I'm raring to get back to it. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Who's our next counselor?
It's me.
Norma Jean Osborne.
Hi, welcome. What do you like best about working as a city manager?
Well, I think, I really enjoy, and sometimes they're very small things, but I really enjoy those things that you can accomplish and you can make a little better for a city organization or for a citizen or for the council. It's the very small rewards that you have to really kind of put in the forefront, because there's a lot of things that people don't really recognize and they don't necessarily understand the work that you do as a city manager or as a city employee. But I just enjoy having the opportunity to make an organization a little stronger, a little better, and make it, again, my goal is certainly that the organization's a little stronger after I leave than it was before I started, and just continue those sorts of progressions. And it's just kind of, even though sometimes, citizens can be challenging, I do enjoy kind of understanding what they're going through and trying to put myself in their shoes and really try to be as empathetic as I can in working through issues that they have. Can't always resolve them, but a lot of times if you listen, you understand that sometimes that's all they're looking for.
Thank you. All right. Next is Councilor Kent.
Good evening. What is your management style?
Generally, what I try to do, I kind of liken this, for me, my role as city manager, I'm kind of like an orchestra conductor of sorts. You've got the staff that's out there doing the work that needs to be done for the citizens. You've got the council setting the policy, and you got to have that position in the middle that's really carrying out those policies and communicating with staff from the council of what's important to the council, and vice versa, letting council know from staff, kind of what some of the limitations and challenges are in going forward. So I think it's really one of listening, understanding, and then acting appropriately in order to come up with the best solution for a particular management issue that you're working on. Sometimes there aren't great answers for that, but sometimes it's a you got to pick the best solution, which may not be the overall great solution, but it's going to be the best solution that's on the table that can make a situation better. So very, very open to understanding what's going on, listening, and then making a decision on behalf of the organization in my role as manager.
Thank you. Our next counselor is Councilor Clark.
I think it was he.
It was me.
Councilor Holt.
Yes.
Glad you guys remember. Hi, thanks for being here tonight. What specific strategies would you implement to ensure continuity and stability during the transition period?
I think there's a number of things that I would want to do as interim manager, and some of the very first things I would want to do is sit down with the individual members of the city council to kind of understand what you think is working, what you think is not working, what kind of priorities you have going forward as an individual council member, and then kind of compiling that information and seeing where the common threads are to get through this interim period. It also lays the groundwork for the basis of who you're going to hire going forward as a permanent manager to kind of understand that basis. I'd want to do the same thing with staff, sit down with staff and kind of understand where they're at and what kinds of issues and concerns they have. And so that would be an important thing to do. You had an election where you've got 2 new council members coming on council, and Councilor Smith is going to become mayor in January. And so I think obviously it's important to do some sort of orientation process to kind of give them a jump start, because particularly for the new councilors, not only are they going to be learning about their role as a council member on the city council, but they're going to be making one of the most important decisions you make, and that's who you're going to be hiring as your next city manager. And making sure that they're comfortable with that is going to be an important thing, and so that they can function as effectively as they can, as quickly as they can moving forward. I think obviously I also want to try to get some debriefing time with Michelle before she leaves to kind of understand kind of the way the city of Creswell works. I did have a chance to do a visit yesterday. I made a trip to Creswell to make sure that I thought I'd be a good fit as interim manager for Creswell, and my conclusion at the end is I think I will be a good fit for Creswell, and it's certainly increased my interest in this interim position as well. But it's kind of just working through those issues initially is really critical. I think the longer term goals during this period of time is really figuring out from a council standpoint how you want to go through your recruitment process for a new manager, and working closely again with council staff on making sure this is as smooth of a transition as it can be, so that things are moving along in your strategic plan as best they can, that your budgeted projects are moving forward. And the other big thing that will be occurring during this interim period is development of your budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1. And so that's something working closely with the finance director is going to be a kind of an important issue going forward. But those are, I guess, some initial issues that I think are important during this interim period.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now Councilor Clark.
All right, Spencer, thank you so much for being with us tonight. My name is Shelley Clark, and I'm an outgoing city councilor. the city manager, even in an interim role, is incredibly important for our community. And so what would communities say, or community members say about what it is that you have accomplished, or what it is, how you've interacted with them?
I think generally, if you speak to our council members in Newport, I was city manager here for 11 years, I think they would say, one, that I listened, two, that I thought through issues, three, that I provided good recommendations and alternatives for council's consideration to act upon to address various issues going forward. I've always been a good listener. I like listening better than talking. That makes my first interview in 11 years a little uncomfortable, but I do really want to try to understand what is motivating people to be either complaining about an issue or being a proponent of an issue, so that we can find some potential solutions that work best for addressing the issues that they want to address. I try to be very open. I've always had an open door policy with employees and with the community, so that's important to me as well. And I think I'm a pretty good communicator, both with staff and with the council, to make sure that both staff and council fully understand kind of what I'm doing on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, so that we're all on the same page. And if, for example, in these status updates I'd like to give to council, if council sees something that they're not comfortable with or has questions about, it's an opportunity for them to ask me, why are we doing this? And it's an opportunity for me to evaluate to make sure I'm heading down the right path on an issue as well. So I think that communication is so important at the council level, to the manager, to the staff, and to the community. And I think I've been pretty effective at that.
Thank you very much. Okay. Alonso, you're next.
Yes.
This is our council president, Alonso Castilla.
Yeah, can you hear me, Spencer?
Sure can, thank you.
Okay, so my question is, describe a situation where you had to make a significant decision with limited information during an interim role. I know you haven't served as interim, so whatever experience you can share, and how you approach the decision-making process.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, surprises are not an uncommon thing in the city manager's career. And so things happen, sometimes things happen very quickly, and it's almost like triaging an issue to understand. First of all, very quickly try and get a basic understanding of what actually happened. And then secondly, taking the appropriate steps necessary to either take corrective action or communicate and let people know what actually occurred, or in a lot of times in personnel issues, those are often very difficult, where there's a complaint that you're working on an individual, and you have to really give due process to those situations to make sure you really understand what occurred. And so I think one of the things that is really important is to look at a situation, quickly evaluate some of those key things, take whatever interim steps are necessary. For example, if it's an employee issue, sometimes you have to temporarily put them on leave with pay until you can sort out the issue. And it was important to get them out of the workforce until you understood what happens. That's always an awkward thing to do, and it's something that you try to avoid doing. But sometimes it's necessary to do that just to de-escalate a situation that might be going on in an employee situation. And so I think most things. So, sometimes I think people jump really quickly to think they have to make a decision and a conclusion instantaneously. Unless it's a life and death situation, usually there's a little more time to logically work your way through those issues and to make the appropriate decisions going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will go last right now. Knowing what you do about Creswell, why do you believe you would be the right person for the interim?
I think first of all, you got two good choices. I think David has been doing this for a while, and I think I'm fully capable of doing this work. So I think from a council standpoint, you've got good choices ahead of you. I think from my standpoint, I think I would work really well with your current staff. I had an opportunity to meet with a number of your staff members when I was in town yesterday. I think you've got, generally, I was impressed with the conversations I had with folks yesterday. I think you've got solid people working for the city of Creswell. So that's in my opinion, a positive thing. Again, that's based on my initial, visit yesterday and looking at some of the reports and reading some of the minutes. I think we've got a pretty good team in place. I think from my standpoint, I just went through a transition, and I had the luxury of being a retiree and letting the council know a year and a half out that I was going to be retiring at a certain point. And so that really helped me help the council through the whole recruitment process and the transition process for the city manager that was hired for Newport following my retirement. And one of the things that we were able to do, which I think worked out really well, is we actually brought the new manager on for a period of I think it was probably 8 or 10 days before I left, and just set up an orientation process where she was able to spend time with the different department heads on different days, meet individually with councilors, so that by the time she started her tenure as city manager, she had a kind of a lay of the land and could then really, I think, move quickly forward in it. Also, I have a tendency to put together fairly complex transition manuals, kind of outlining, where I'm at on various issues to help inform the person that's following me going forward. I don't know if they actually read those, but at least I get comfort in the fact that I put together kind of a map to at least get them started going forward. So I think just going through that process, and I think council and the manager that was hired were very satisfied with how that process played out, and so I think that's a real advantage. And quite frankly, I'm pretty excited to kind of jump into a new position with new staff, new council members, and really see if we can make this work as well as I think the transition worked in Newport.
Okay, so Spencer, now we would like to turn it to you. If you have questions you would like to ask the council.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that, and I've watched a number of council meetings, I think from the standpoint of seeing the council in action, I think you function pretty well as a council. I don't know individually if you think you function well as a council, but I think there's a lot of collaboration and discussion, and I think one of the keys is not everyone has to agree with everybody, and because if everyone agreed with everybody, then you really need just one council member. You've got 7 perspectives on the council, and it's important that each person share their viewpoints on an issue, and then collectively the body makes a decision, and the majority will make that final decision. And I think that's working out well. But I would guess, I guess the question I have for you is, what's important to you as a council in the interim manager period of time for this time that you're going to be going through this recruitment process?
So what's important to the council as we go through the recruitment process and the interim, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, councilors, who would like to respond to that? Eugene?
I feel we want somebody who is ready and able to step in and help guide us. There are a lot of things going on in the city that need to be implemented in the near future before we can hire a permanent city manager. And are you ready to step up and take on that role?
Yeah, I think I can. I reviewed your strategic plan. I've reviewed a number of things. I think one thing that would complement the city of Creswell in is having a number of these things in place. It's going to be helpful for whoever you hire as interim manager. It's going to also be very helpful for the folks that are looking at Creswell to work as a permanent city manager to kind of understand what issues are going to be most important to the city going forward. So I do think that, one, you've kind of laid out a good framework, and again, that doesn't cover by any means all the issues going on with the city, but it's a good starting place to kind of understand what the priorities are going forward. I think I'm a pretty quick learner on understanding kind of what's important to folks, and I think, as I indicated earlier, I think having one-on-one meetings with each of the individual council members and the mayor and working with the 200 people that are being elected will really kind of help build that knowledge base that I'm going to need to be successful as interim city manager during this tenure. So yeah, I think I can certainly keep these various projects moving along. You've got some big ones with the sewer project. That's a major nightmare for many communities. That's just the amount of money that's necessary to bring these systems up to standards is hard to wrap your arms around, but we're going to have to do that in a variety of cities in Oregon. I think you've got a street project coming up, and those can be a little contentious from time to time. I think I'm pretty good at working through those kinds of issues to help move those projects forward. But you've got a lot going on for a small town, but I think I'm in a position to really help guide and receive input and help make some decisions to accomplish some of these things during this interim period.
Okay, other councilors who would like to respond to Spencer's question? Councilor Clark.
Yeah, I think that our city staff are unsung heroes of our community. And so one of the things that I would really be looking for and that I'm really kind of weighing pretty heavily is how, again, even in the interim, how are we going to support and encourage city staff? Because I think your assessment is right on, right? And that we have some of the greatest city staff that are here and are working with our communities, and I want to make sure that we are able to, again, just nurture them and retain them, and hopefully when they're ready, they retire from the city of Creswell because they just want to stay. So that's something that I'm really looking at.
No, I think these transitions are always very challenging for employees, particularly you've had a longtime manager who hired a lot of these people here, and so this is kind of the first change they're experiencing as an employee of the city. I think the key is really being supportive, listening to them, kind of understanding what their priorities are, and giving them support where they need support, and giving them guidance where they need guidance. And again, not everything's necessarily something that I might agree with moving forward, but you certainly want to hear them out and then make a decision that's going to be appropriate for the city as a whole. And but I think you really do have a great bunch of folks that had an opportunity to meet a number of them when I was there yesterday, and so I think keeping them stable and like you said, today there's so much transition in the workforce. People are coming and going and coming and going. Having a stable workforce is just a huge plus for any organization, and I think that's got to be a priority moving forward for the city of Creswell.
Other councilors who'd like to respond? Councilor Castillo?
Sure, I think that, just to read a little bit of what Councilor Clark had to say, I think it's vital that our staff receive the same quality of support that our current city manager has been giving them all this time, particularly in public works. As you've said, there are some projects that are going on. And two, I think it's very crucial that we're going to need, the city is going to need support in the recruitment process. So I think those are key things that I think we're looking for.
Yeah, no, I again agree with that, those observations, and recruiting the next city manager is going to be a very important task that this council is going to be involved with, and making a decision that's going to hopefully impact this community for the next decade. So,
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands go from council members. Do you have any other questions you'd like to ask the council, Spencer?
I think, like I said, I had a chance to, I watched a number of your meetings. You seem to get a fair amount of citizen input at your meetings, and I think, like many communities, you have some regular customers that like to share their thoughts with you. But I think the way that everything is handled, at least in the meetings I watched, has been very respectful. People have their opportunity to provide their comments, and then you move on to the next item. So I think the structure of the council meeting seems to work well from my observation. I guess the question is, from a council standpoint, are you comfortable with the way the council meetings are currently provided and the information that you get as part of your council packets? Are you satisfied with that information?
Councilors? Councilor Holt?
That's actually a really great question. Thank you for asking it. I think overall I am satisfied with how the meetings run, aside from a couple of small things. I haven't been particularly fond of the round robin approach in, say, work sessions, because sometimes I think follow-up questions to what somebody else has said need to happen in the moment and not after we've heard 5 other people speak and we've moved on in conversation. I have a hard time with that. And I don't feel like our packets have always been complete, but mostly. I feel like sometimes I come into meetings with lack of information, lack of knowledge, and I'm not sure where the disconnect happens in those situations, but I'm not sure we're getting everything all the time. As a general rule, I think everybody does a great job, but he asked the question, so I'm going to be frank and answer it. So, thanks for the question.
Okay.
Other councilors who'd like to respond to that question? Councilor Clark.
Sure, I will share. I feel like over the course of the past 4 years, I've been very pleased with the amount of information that has come in our council packets. I feel like, again, staff do as best as they can to make sure that they are prepared for all of the questions that we may have, and anticipate the questions that we may have, and that we should be asking. So I've been very pleased.
Okay, any other comments? Do you have any other questions for us?
I guess the only other final question that I'd have for you is just the timetable of making a decision on this interim manager position.
When we conclude our conversation with you, then you can go offline, and then council will then deliberate, but it's also your option if you want to stay on YouTube and just watch the remainder of the meeting. Council will then deliberate, we'll hear from audience, they have some comments, and then we will make a decision tonight. And I will reach out to you and David both tomorrow with our decision. We talked before about having someone in contract by December 6th. Manager Ember's last day is the 13th. You and I talked on the phone about this, and you felt like there was not anything for a carryover. In talking with Councilor Castillo today, I think we both agree I'm not sure our charter even calls for having 2 city managers at the same time. So we would probably not begin the new position until the 14th, and hoping that you, whoever is selected, will then have some conversation with Manager Amber prior to that, just to make sure you're ready to step on. But that's what we're looking at in terms of timeline. We'll make a decision tonight.
Okay, no, I think that's reasonable, and I probably would just plan to spend a little time with the current manager prior to her departure. There's a balance between having too much time together and too little time together, and finding that sweet spot, I think, is something I'd be willing to do if you're going to retain me for this position on my own prior to officially starting.
Okay. So, Counselor, any follow-up questions, counsel, that you would like to ask of Spencer? Yes. Nick?
So my question would be the same one that I asked before, and it's how do you deal with conflict of strong differing opinions from either council members or citizens?
Well, the beauty of serving in the public sector is there's a lot of opinions out there, and oftentimes the opinions are not not on the same basis at all, and there are differences. Again, if everyone were identical, and had the same thoughts, it probably, the world wouldn't be quite as much fun. But there's a lot of perspectives out there, and I think the key, certainly from a council standpoint, and working as a manager with the council, the key is really, getting those issues on the table, having a discussion, and then ultimately, majority, obviously rules in a decision that council has to make. And I think the important thing is to have some respect for that final decision, even if that may not be the position that you were most supportive in the initial discussions. But citizens are going to have a wide range of views. I think you could give everyone $1,000, and you'd have people that were unhappy about that. Someone's going to be unhappy about that. And that's just the way it is. People have different opinions, and different people are motivated in different ways in what is important to them and what they want to see their governing body do. So the key is, in my mind, is having those open discussions, having transparency, so that people can see the process occurring, and there's a better likelihood that even if someone disagreed with the final outcome, they could, at least they felt they had an opportunity to be heard before that decision is made. And that's a regular situation in every city I've worked in, and it's really part of the, I think, art of being a mayor and council, and being a manager is understanding that and working through those issues to come to some sort of conclusion that's good for the community.
Thank you. Some truer words have not been spoken.
Okay, other councilors who have a follow-up question? So I'm gonna go ahead and ask my follow-up question, and Alonzo, you're looking your list over. So my follow-up was, if the council should decide, come January, that rather than hiring a professional firm to do the recruitment process, they wanted to work directly with the interim city manager, do you feel comfortable leading such a process?
I think if that were the final decision of the council, I think I would. I'm not sure I would recommend that the council do that, but that's certainly a discussion that needs to be had fairly early to determine which direction the council wants to go in. Over my years as city manager, I've been involved with tons of department head recruitments. I've been recruited as a city manager in the past, so I've experienced it from that perspective. And I think from the standpoint of going just through the process that we went through in Newport with hiring my replacement. I was very involved with that process. I think there's some things you lose by trying to do it yourself. You lose some of the network that some of the recruiters have to get the word out about managers. Your pool might be a little smaller. You might not get that perfect fit, but then again, you never know. I mean, it's a important discussion for the council to have. And if the council decides not to utilize a recruiter, I'd certainly play whatever role is necessary in order to get the job done. The other thing too is, there's a number of legal and ethical issues on the hiring process that have to be followed, and certainly, Ross would have to be part of that process to make sure that the city is following the procedures as required by law on the hiring process. And that really pertains to the executive sessions and approving the resolution, kind of outlining that process in advance of kicking that recruitment process off. And so that, it's doable. Like I said, I think there's some downsides to it, but if that's the direction the council wanted to go, I'd certainly be willing to facilitate that process.
Okay, thank you. Alonzo?
That was the question, Mayor. So I
Okay.
think we have one last from Stacy Holt, Councilor Holt.
Me?
Did you?
Would you?
I can answer my question from him too. I can.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the benefits we had with our outgoing city manager was that she was very versed in how public meetings run and basic Robert's rules. And I just wanted to ask, what your knowledge of Robert's rules are. While we don't use it directly, we basically use it with some modification.
Yeah, no, from my standpoint, I'm kind of a rules-oriented sort of person, and one of my hobbies has been doing organizational rules for different organizations. When I was president of the Oregon City Managers Association, we rewrote our whole bylaws and structure, and that was something that I took the lead on for the association. I kind of. Maybe that's what makes some city managers weird, but we sort of like that stuff. And we want order in the process of decision making. Because if there's not order in that process of decision making, it makes the entire thing look pretty chaotic. And sometimes it actually goes beyond looking chaotic, it becomes a chaotic situation. So you need a set of rules in order to follow, in order to make these difficult decisions that you have to make for the community on a day-to-day basis.
Can I follow?
Yes.
That's great to know. And the reason I ask is because, it's nice to have that additional person in the room that understands the rules so that they can help guide the meeting along. So thank you for that answer.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. Council, any other questions that you would like to ask Spencer before we sign off? Okay, I think we are good. So we're going to sign off, and then we will have our deliberation, we'll make a decision, and I will be in touch with you and David tomorrow morning.
Okay, well, I appreciate the invitation for the interview, and I wish you well with your decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, good night now.
Okay. Council, do we need a break, or are we ready to just continue on? All right, we will continue on. So first of all, we're going to ask if the audience members have a comment, and if you would like to make a comment, come up to the podium. We'd like to ask you to keep your comment to 2 minutes. Okay? So, any members of the audience who would like to make a comment?
I guess.
All right, come on up, tell us your name.
I'm Debbie Yee, and my comment is that they both were good. I appreciate everything they had to say and all the questions you guys asked. And if I were to pick someone just based on my management experience and business experience, I would pick the second gentleman. I think he added a little bit more and fleshed out some of the answers a little bit better. And he didn't seem to falter, but more importantly, since he's newly retired and has been in the position of a city manager, more currently permanent city manager, I think the interim thing intrigues him enough to help him. He can put his feet in it a little bit and get wet, but he's more attuned to, I think, small projects, small cities, helping with streets, helping with the sewer. I think he can maybe hit the ground running a little bit more because he's been there permanently, more recent, but just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to hear, Mark, if you have any comments you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, I've got some observations.
Okay.
Great job up there.
Thank you. We'll wait and see if you feel that way in 2025.
Hi, so Mark, I'm the,
Full name, please.
it's Mark Kramer,
Okay.
elect city council. Just sort of touch a little bit more what Debbie was doing. Spencer's kind of, they both were really good. Spencer kind of caught my eye a little bit more just because he's very knowledgeable, relatable. He was a good communicator. It's like he had the questions. Like he had answers that were really right on target. They both complemented each other. He did help with the recruiting, so he does have a lot of recent experience in, you know, Newport's not small by whatsoever. But he also proceeds with caution too. So it's kind of nice where you're, even though if he's not in with the lawyer stuff, he still makes sure that he's doing it right. So I just like him. I think like that guy is Creswell all over. So I'm not saying anything bad towards David, but man, Spencer really hit the target for me. So yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from audience members? So I'm going to ask the council. Council, would you like to open it up for any comments from our 4 staff members that are here tonight?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so we have 4 staff members.
Don't feel pressured.
Yeah, you're not required to, because I realize you're talking about someone who potentially could be your boss for a period of time. But we have 4. If you'd like to have a comment, I think the council would be very open to that. Shelley, come on up.
Me and my Grinch wear, just for the occasion. Shelley Humboldt. Being the airport manager, I did have a chance to talk to Spencer yesterday. He is very knowledgeable. Newport has a big airport. So he does understand airport issues. He understands some of the things that we're going through. I think that gives him the advantage. Because he has worked with a municipal airport, and so he is very knowledgeable about different people that we have to deal with on the airport. So,
Okay.
I think he is the better fit.
All right, thank you. Would you like to make a comment in the back there, Angela?
Gotta go on.
I don't really want to say it on the record because I live in Cottage Grove, and so I know a history of other, and there was a lot of issues. I had a lot of people warn me about certain people when they heard about our process that we are recruiting, and so I just
How about we take it at that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Caitlin or Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, Jim Piper, Finance Director. I think they're both great candidates. I think they both have some real solid strengths. They've been doing this for a long time, so they both come in with a lot of wisdom. a lot of experience. I think they'd be a great fit, either one of them.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Caitlin? Yes? Everybody else does. Then you can, we have the recording continuing here, so you won't miss a beat.
Hi, my name's Caitlin Bourne. I am leaning on more on the Spencer side, just by the responses and the knowledge he seems to have. Not that David doesn't seem like he has that knowledge as well, but that's where I'm standing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so council, at this point, we're just going to open it up for deliberation, comments, thoughts you have, and then we're going to move to a decision. Okay? So, any thoughts you have about our two candidates that you'd like to share with the group? Norma Jean.
I think we're lucky to have two excellent candidates to choose from. But I also lean more towards Spencer. He does seem like a better fit for us. He doesn't have the same amount of interim city manager experience, but I think he would do really well for our city. And he's shown some incentive to come here and meet with people and see what the city's all about on his own.
Just to note that David Klein did come last week as well.
Oh.
And attended our work session.
I did not know that, or I didn't remember it.
Okay. Councillor Clark.
So I like both of them as well, but I've got to say when Spencer mentioned the strategic plan, I got really excited that he knew about our strategic plan, and my jaw dropped, and he talked about the street project, and I fell back in my chair, and then he mentioned the sewer project, and I toppled over backwards. I don't know if you all caught that. And so anyway, I was really impressed by Spencer. I like David too, his honesty and candor, but Spencer really wowed me in this interview.
Okay. Kelly.
Yeah, so I guess I want to speak on both candidates, just kind of some thoughts that I have, and I think I'm gonna agree with everyone that gosh, we have two fantastic individuals to choose from. I think that they both have skills and experiences that I think that could uniquely serve the city of Creswell. And so as I think about the skills and the experiences that David brings, I'm really impressed with the depth and breadth of his experience serving in that interim city manager role. I think that's something that is unique, and I think could really serve us well, as this is the role that we're looking at filling. And so I think that's something that as I'm thinking about both candidates, that's something that David has that Spencer doesn't. I think Councillor Kent asked about management style for both of them. I was really impressed with for David around talking about being collaborative and empowering, and that I really appreciated what he talked about in terms of just working with city staff and empowerment of city staff and trusting their skills and knowledge. I think you've heard me a couple of times tonight really talk about how great our city staff is, and I think that's something that David recognized, is that we do have fantastic city staff that have knowledge in their areas. I also really appreciated again his candor when he talked about just kind of going through some difficult experiences as a city manager and how he may have navigated that. He had the example of the city of Newburgh, right, kind of going through some review with the police department, and I think that can be a very
difficult topic, right? To be able to navigate that. And so I appreciated that experience and that perspective that he gave. And then, also just, kind of talking about kind of like how does he manage conflict with strong differences of opinion. Again, I thought that both of the candidates did a really great job with that. And then I also, as he was talking about the role specifically of that interim city manager, I think he really kind of talked well about, or understood well, kind of that inward focus of the work for that. I also, I guess kind of switching over to kind of thinking about Spencer, one of the things that I even said in my answer of, kind of what are you looking for is I really value our city staff and I value their perspective and I value their experience. And so I think hearing unanimously from the city staff, I think that sends a very strong message. I also think hearing from our community members and hearing from our incoming councilors, I think that also sends a very strong message of support from the community and from our city staff that they're looking forward to the opportunity to be able to work with Spencer. And I think that speaks really highly for his candidacy. And so I wanted to make sure that I have noted that, because I have certainly noted that in my mind as I think about what informs my thinking and my decision, or I guess what would ultimately be my vote. One of the things that I got about Spencer, what I felt from him is just the warmth. Right, and the warmth and the deep care for the community. Again, I know both of our candidates took the opportunity to come and spend time with us, to get to know us. What I heard from Spencer is that he really took the opportunity to meet with individuals and spend time kind of learning about what was going on. I heard a greater depth of experience and interactions that I think really, again, as I think about Creswell being the friendly city, that's that warmth that I was able to get from him, even over Zoom, right? So even over that screen, right? I think about, kind of, while this is the first opportunity for Spencer to serve as an interim role, I think that he has a depth of experience serving as a permanent city manager, and I think that really showed in his answers. He talked about enjoying the profession, knew that he wanted to do this work, and so I think that this could be a really great opportunity for the city of Creswell to grow in that way. Again, I think a lot about the question that Councilor Kent asked in terms of the management style. He talked about it being a kind of an orchestra conductor, and kind of council setting the policy, working with our citizens, working with our community, and then taking the time to really act appropriately. Really, that spoke to my heart, as well as I think about the ways in which we work and how we find our greatest success is kind of taking that time to really work through what can be some very difficult and divisive questions or divisive issues that come up in our community. Anyway, so I'm going to stop talking for a little bit because I feel like I've talked quite a bit. But yeah, I really felt a good warmth with Spencer, and I really want to hear the wisdom of our city staff and our community.
Any other comments from councilors at this point? If not, we can move toward the decision. Councilor Castillo.
Sure, I'll go ahead. I'll be brief. What a great problem to have. We have two really, really good candidates to choose from. I think either one of these gentlemen are going to do a great job as interim. However, I think that I got the sense that David understood the role of interim better than Spencer did. If Spencer was applying for the full-time management job, I would say that's our guy. I think that David gave, like I said, his answers for me were centered more around drawing the line, the distinction between interim and full-time manager. Remember, this is just interim. This is just temporary. And it's a little different job. And I get the sense that this is different. So with that, I really feel that David just has a better understanding of what the interim role is. And I think that's what we need right now. It's just an interim to come in and be supportive of staff, keep paying the bills, and get us focused on getting the full-time person.
Okay, Nick?
You really took my going against the grain approach. Thanks for that. Kind of stole my thunder. Ditto what literally everybody in the room has said, so I don't want to waste a bunch of time repeating, but very thoughtful words from everybody, and I agree with Alonzo. Either one is going to be a quality replacement, but again, it is temporary, and with any luck, God's blessing, we'll find somebody really soon, and he won't even need to be here that long. Cost is something that not everybody's brought up. So in some of the perspectives, there is a cost difference. And both of them are just, again, going to be conduits to finding somebody more permanent. And I did like David's approach in the sense of it is a unpermanent job, and he is just to continue to pay the bills, keep the lights on, empower everyone. So it's a tough decision. However, I'm going to bring up a few things that not everyone else has, and it is a temporary role. So hopefully we can get somebody permanent. And I agree, Spencer, if he was here for the full time, this would be a great pick. But ultimately, one other point was that David seemed more open to non-recruitment, and recruitment is a huge cost to this town, and I'm always going to be dollars and cents, and if we need to take that approach, I'm happy to. We got to do what we got to do, but there is an approach too of being cost effective, and if we can get 7 or 10 applicants, I don't know that we need to recruit. Where Spencer really thought that recruitment was the only way to go, he would go with the council decision, which is great, but just want to go against Grant a little bit and see what anybody else has to say.
Councillor Holt?
I really don't want to repeat what everyone else has said, but I'm definitely leaning towards Spencer. I thought that he was more professional in his interview, and when I asked about Robert's rules, he didn't say, well, I don't like those. He answered the question, so I appreciated that because I think they're important in our environment. And but also after hearing from staff, I think that supporting staff is very important as well. And so my vote would be with Spencer.
Well, I'll speak last. I do think we have 2 excellent candidates, and not, of the 7 candidates we had, 4 of them all have full-time city manager experience, so we were very fortunate to have that many quality applicants. They approach it somewhat differently, as has been pointed out. David says he'd be here approximately 3 days a week, 25 to 30 hours a week, available other times by phone or conference call. He also notes that he is on staff with Portland State University. So did you pick that up, that he does work at Portland State University as well, while Spencer's approach is he'd be here full time. And there's a part of me that thinks that right now that's an advantage to our city, because we're losing someone who's here full time. He would even be living here during the week, staying in the local hotel, which would be some of his costs. So I know that right now we have huge issues coming up in terms of wastewater, roads, airport. So while David has a lot of experience with all those, Spencer is just coming off of 11 plus years in the city doing that. So there's a part of me that feels like he's very fresh. He's got boots off the ground 6 months, he's ready to go again. And so do we need someone who's going to be here full time? Although I think Spencer says he'd be here 4 days on site, but he'd be available 5 days a week. He'd be here 4 days, and then back in Newport, He would also be available because he's gonna be staying in a hotel, most likely, where we have him, versus David, who's approaching it very professionally, but he's gonna be here limited, 3 days a week, commuting back and forth. So there's a difference in how they approach it. I felt overall that Spencer was more easily approachable, I guess. And then he talked, his definition of how he approached his management style was orchestra conductor. It's interesting, if you ask Michelle how she approaches it, she uses the exact same illustration. She's a conductor of an orchestra. So I do recognize there's a difference in how David, who's done multiple interims, and Spencer, who's brand new to it. However, 4 of you are continuing on, plus Mark, so that weighs heavy on my mind too. And I guess I would ask the question of Nick, do you feel confident with working with either one?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, no problem.
Okay. So, any other comments? And then at this point, we're open for a motion, and we're going to vote.
I was hoping we could get to that.
We are to that point now, to where, at this point, I'm entertaining a motion on a decision for an interim city manager. Councilor Shelley Clark.
I would move to select Spencer Niebel as the interim city manager.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Councilor Holt. Any further discussion? All right. Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor of Spencer Niebel as our interim city manager, please raise your hand. The vote is, all those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Yes.
So, the next order, council, is the nitty-gritty of the contract. So I believe if the council entrusts that to me, I can work that out with Spencer. We have his proposal here for his contract. I can work that out with Spencer. If there's any fine-tuning of it that our attorney needs to do, we would have him do that, and then essentially Spencer would sign it and I would sign it. In terms of the date, I would suggest that his start date would be Saturday the 14th. So there will be no gap over. Michelle's last day would be Friday the 13th. Spencer will start on the 14th. Spencer will initiate contacts with Michelle prior to that on his own time and his own dime. And on the 14th, we'll have a city manager, city interim. Stacy.
Okay, I just have a question. Why the 14th? Why not the 16th on a Monday?
Because we actually have to have a city manager every day of the week.
Okay, fair.
Yes.
Okay. And then, I had another one, but I lost it. If I get back to it, I'll let you know.
And I only know that because of what happened 13 years ago when we didn't have a city manager on a Friday, and I mistakenly thought the mayor had to do it. And I was told no, so I went to the public works director, who was not Cliff, and said, you have to be the city manager at least till Monday. But on Saturday, LCOG came down with Jamie Kent, retired school superintendent. We went to the Grange, we went to the VFW, and the council voted, and he began on Saturday. Yes?
Oh, I remember my other question. It was about the contract. We're just, essentially, if you work with the attorney, you're just gonna work with him to make sure that everything that he has put in his suggestion, right? So you wouldn't be making any changes outside of what we've seen?
Nope.
Okay.
We would go with this.
Mm-hmm.
I would pass this to Ross, and probably, because this is not drafted up, David was drafted up more as a contract he just signed. So I would ask Ross to take this, draft it up into a formal contract, and then, when it's done, but there will be no substantive change to the contract.
Can we have an opportunity to see what Ross does?
I can ask Ross to send it to the entire council, but we've already agreed to the contract, so we'll be sending it to you for your look-see.
Mm-hmm. I know.
There's no negotiating contract?
Do you want to negotiate the contract?
I'm gonna bring up just,
Got your microphone on?
oh, sorry. I have a little bit of an issue with the car allowance. And it may come out to be more detailed this way, but I'd rather pay, rather than just an arbitrary ideal sum, I'd rather just pay mileage from Creswell to any city business outside of Creswell, whether that be 100 miles or 1,000 miles. I'd rather just pay mileage from Creswell to whatever city business he needs to do, if he's using his personal car, which obviously it would be, since we don't provide that. And then on the hotel, it is what it is. I think it's excessive, but hopefully we'll find somebody quickly.
So, Alonzo,
I did notice he's not going to charge us mileage to and from Independence, is from what I believe.
Newport.
Oh, sorry, Newport.
Yeah, so this is one of the differences is his car allowance at $300 a month, I think is intended to replace the commuting back and forth. So coming from Newport to Creswell at least twice a week, it would that $300 would cover all that, and the only mileage we would pay is if he's required to travel 50 miles round trip from Creswell, which kind of means he has to go to Eugene for a meeting or something, then we would pay mileage.
Okay, because I'm understanding this is, I don't get paid to go to work either. I get paid if I'm at work and then I go for work. And that's what I'm trying to get at is more of if he goes home for the weekend, that's fine, but I don't think we should be paying for a car until he's here in Creswell working. And then if he needs to drive out from that, I'm fine with mileage for sure. Anywhere 75 cents to $1. And it may add to be more. I just think it's a random sum that isn't maybe industry standard. Maybe it is, not my industry.
So I have 210 miles round trip to Newport.
At about 70 cents a mile.
76 cents a mile currently.
IRS allotted amount.
Comes out to $159 round trip. So if you did that 4 times a month,
Yes.
that's $600.
But again, we're paying for him to come to work?
Yes.
That's, okay.
Yes.
But David's contract also included the same thing.
It did, but
$40.
since we're kind of picking Spencer, I just wanted to make sure that's what I'm focused on, is not David's.
Right.
It's on Spencer, so I guess I'm not making my point that, does anybody else get paid to go to the work?
Nope.
Well, we don't, but the role of interim is different. I have a number of friends who are pastoral interims who live at a distance from where they're at, and so they do get reimbursed for that distance, because it's not like you and I getting up and going 5 or 10 or 15 miles, it's them coming 300 miles.
But so that you're telling me, what I'm hearing from you is it's industry standard for this situation?
Yep.
Just for the interim though, correct?
For interim,
Yes,
for interim.
just for interim.
I can live with that. I'm gonna bring it up because, again, I'm dollars and cents, I'm business oriented, and if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense, but we have to keep in mind our budget, and so that's why I'm bringing it up. But if it's industry standard, it's not nothing I can't live with, or live without, but it's, I was gonna bring it up, talk about it, deliberate, figure it out.
Okay, so Stacy?
I agree with you. I actually paused over his contract, but then I also really appreciated his willingness to step in at the current rate, and be here 4 days a week, 5 days a week really, but be available 5 days a week. I really appreciated that. So he didn't try to ask above and beyond what we're already paying, and I think the accommodation for travel, for the hotel, I don't know how we get around that,
No.
yeah, so.
Okay, so council, yes,
I think it's actually 67 cents.
67 cents.
67 cents.
And I multiplied 76.
Well, I pay too much for my employees then.
So I will ask Ross, I will talk to both David and Spencer tomorrow. I will ask Ross to look at the contract, to draft it up, to send it out to all of us. But I will move forward with, once you've all seen the contract, we have it in hand, then I will move forward with Spencer to get him under contract by December 14.
Just one more comment. The note that he puts in here, that the net cost of the housing and vehicle allowance should be more than offset by the city not having responsibility for healthcare and retirement expenses during my employment with the the city. So that's something that we don't have to pay. So there are savings there.
Okay, and with that, we are adjourned.
Great meeting.
Yes. So, Nick,